About 100 years ago, South Korea's top hunter, Min Se-view, mysteriously got transported to a monster-infested world. It happened right after he and his disciples defeated the Demon King on Earth. The only way to return to Earth was by defeating a dragon-like monster that had a hidden core inside it. That core had the power to teleport him back to his home planet. After years of fighting, Se-view finally managed to defeat the monster using his legendary healing abilities and took the core for himself. As soon as he pulled out the stone, he prepared to return to Earth to reunite with his disciples and younger brother. The very next moment, he opened his eyes in a lush green forest, but he wasn't alone. Inside him was a strange being named Frey, living within his body. Se-view stood up and looked around, but couldn't recognize the place right away. Frey was obviously shocked. I mean, come on, how could someone not recognize their own home? Se-view calmly reminded him that Earth's landscape can change depending on location. Then he tried to sense the mana flow around him, and it felt kind of weird, like he was inside some kind of gate. When he checked his mana, a frustrating realization hit him. His stats had been nerfed again. Apparently, dimensional travel always had side effects. The first time he got sent from Earth to the other world 100 years ago, his stats had dropped to, and now it was happening again. Currently, he only had about 20% of his power left, which was seriously irritating. Frey was also pissed because if Se-view didn't recover soon, he wouldn't be able to use his flashy skills. But Se-view was just as annoyed. It would take at least a decade to regain his old strength. Hearing that, Frey straight up considered canceling the contract. Se-view's mana was so trash right now that he looked completely useless. While the two of them were arguing, the scene shifted to a girl running and gasping for breath, being chased by an orc. She'd gotten separated from her team and had no idea what to do. The biggest mystery: how did this orc enter the dungeon so quickly? While running, she tripped and fell. Just as the orc was about to tear her apart, Se-view blew it away with his single punch so effortlessly, he didn't even bother to look at the girl. It was just a minor inconvenience to him. He finally turned to the girl and asked her to confirm, "Is this place really Earth?" The already scared girl nodded. Then he asked if it was Korea and what year it was. She answered again, saying it was 2037. Hearing that, Se-view started thinking. When he had left for the other world, it was 2007, if his calculation was correct. Then 100 years in the demon realm only equaled 10 years on Earth. He asked one more question: who's the current president? The girl replied, Choi Dae-soo. That name shocked Se-view. He knew this guy. And judging by Se-view's expression, things between them weren't exactly friendly. As he started muttering weird things to himself, the girl began to think maybe this guy was faking it, pretending to be a regressor. Se-view asked again about the mana flow. It still felt odd. He asked if they were inside a gate. The girl confirmed and even gave extra details. This place was called the Tutorial Tower. Se-view had never heard of such a thing, so the girl explained. A few years ago, a tower appeared that worked like a gateway for hunters. If you clear it, you awaken your abilities and unlock new skills. The higher your awakening rank, the better your privileges, like getting recruited by top guilds. That's why everyone was rushing to clear it. Se-view remembered that in his time, people awakened powers without extra formalities. From what he'd just learned, if he wanted to leave this place, all he had to do was clear the tower. So he asked her how long it usually takes to clear. She replied that on average, it takes 8 weeks, but if you're skilled, maybe 6. The fastest time ever was by a second-generation genius hunter named Ruji Wan, who cleared it in just 9 weeks. But Se-view honestly couldn't care less. At that moment, both of them sensed a strange presence, and soon enough, a giant mutated tiger appeared, a troll tiger. The girl panicked, but Se-view was still lost in thought, thinking about the record holder. In his opinion, 3 weeks wasn't even impressive, it was way too long. But since his abilities had been nerfed again, he wasn't sure if he could go faster this time. The tiger licked its lips like it was about to snack on them, then leapt to attack, but Se-view, still not even fully paying attention, casually threw a punch that shattered the beast's jaw. He finally decided 5 days would be enough to clear the tower. Sevyu was munching on fried chicken in a restaurant while Frey just stared at him in shock. After 100 years in a brutal world, the first thing this guy wanted to do on returning to Earth was eat fried birds. After polishing off his bucket of chicken, Sevyu started wandering the streets, which instantly sparked Frey's curiosity again. He couldn't hold back and asked, "Where are you even going?" Sevyu didn't feel the need to explain for him. It was obvious he was going home. When he finally reached his old house and stepped inside, a wave of intense nostalgia hit him. He remembered rushing home for dinner, his mom cooking, and his dad reading the newspaper. But now, that was just a memory. The house was a broken down, abandoned shell. He couldn't even recall his parents' faces anymore. People say forgetting is a blessing, but for Sevyu, it was a curse. He had spent 100 years in the demon realm, on a planet filled only with war, blood, and brutality. Human emotions had faded. Time had frozen, and he had started to lose his own sense of self. For him, it was like a never-ending curse built to erase his existence, but he clung to his memories, his little siblings, his disciples. They weren't just fading images anymore. They turned into obsessions. That obsession was the only reason he survived for 100 years. Even Frey noticed the place looked like a ghost town, even colder and more lifeless than the demon realm. Sevyu hadn't come back to live. He came to witness what remained, and now that he'd seen it, it was time to move on. He thought of meeting his childhood friends, the ones he used to play with. But before anything else, he planned to meet his brother, Sion. Just as he was thinking about reconnecting with his old friends, a gang of thugs surrounded him. Their leader, a guy with red hair, introduced himself as beyond Hawkman S rank, hunter from the Vijara Guild, but Sevyu, he stayed totally chill, completely unbothered. These guys didn't even register on his radar. Hawkman felt insulted, thinking Sevyu was taking him lightly. So he repeated the name of his guild, as if that would intimidate him, but Sevyu didn't even flinch. Dude literally gave off zero cares energy. Their verbal exchange escalated quickly, but Sevyu countered every single insult with an even sharper comeback so smooth it just made Hawkman more pissed. The guy's patience finally snapped, and he decided it was time to teach Sevyu a lesson. Hawkman launched a punch so powerful that Sevyu flew backward and slammed into a wall. Hawkman and his goons celebrated, assuming they'd shut him up. But their Sevyu was chilling on the ground like nothing had happened. Cool as a cucumber. The idiots thought he was knocked out since he wasn't getting up. Then a system window flashed. In front of Sevyu's eyes, it revealed that the move Hawkman used was a special skill called Lightning Flash, a CGR-type skill that gives instantaneous acceleration, doubling the user's speed as long as the body can handle the friction. Not a bad skill, honestly, Sevyu casually asked Frey. "So, you hungry? Want to try your first meal back on Earth?" Frey was down. Sevyu stood up without a word and in lightning speed dashed toward Hawkman, then landed a slap so strong it sent him crashing into the ground, shattering the floor on impact. The goons, who were laughing like hyenas a second ago, were now standing frozen in shock. Sevyu extended his hand and gave Frey the chance to extract Hawkman's skill. A dark magic circle formed beneath them. Within seconds, the extraction was complete. Frey admitted consuming the skill was fine, but its taste nowhere near as good as the chicken from earlier. Meanwhile, Hawkman, whose pride had already been ground to dust, screamed at his minions to attack Sevyu all at once. And like brainless sheep, they charged in as if they stood any chance. Sevyu gave one instruction: "Frey, let's test out the new skill." The moment the skill activated, Sevyu exploded with speed like a lightning demon. In one single flash, he wiped out every single thug like they were nothing but mosquitoes. One thug tried a powerful attack, but Sevyu easily dodged it, kneed him in the stomach, and sent him flying, coughing up blood. The guy was using a technique called Vital Point Strike, meant to automatically hit weak spots. But clearly, he didn't know how to use it right. Sevyu decided to keep the skill for himself. Just when the situation looked like it could get uglier, Someone entered the scene. The moment Sevyu turned around and saw him, it was like a battlefield. Transformed into a warm reunion, the two brothers stood facing each other. Everyone in the office noticed the sudden shift in the team leader's attitude. Just a while ago, he was complaining about the new recruit, and now he was acting super soft and helpful. A female staff member named Swa clearly looked confused, but a guy standing next to her subtly told her to stay quiet. From the leader's behavior, it was clear this rookie wasn't just any rookie. Bongnu then turned to Swa in his usual cocky tone and told her to come with him to the concrete room for a quick briefing. That level of formal treatment for a new recruit made other staff members suspicious. Maybe this guy was actually a 3-star hunter. Later in the office, as expected, the team leader was practically swooning over Sevyu, making coffee for him, and being overly hospitable. Swa was also there, ready to give him the briefing. She was the data manager of the gangbook team. Sevyu laid down his request. He wanted the record of every hunter who had died in the past 20 years. Swa was shocked. That kind of data pile was huge, and to access it, a formal report had to be submitted to the Hunter Association, but the team leader, now annoyed at her hesitation, bluntly told her to just do it. He assured Sevyu that Swa would get it done fast and efficiently. Sua asked, "You only need the cases involving humans?" Sevyu clarified only the ones officially marked by HMSC as murder cases. He also wanted a list of hunter killers who were still in caught. From Sevyu's perspective, an awakened individual could only be killed by someone equally powerful. And if someone had killed a top-tier hunter like Minjin, the killer was a professional. If that killer was already dead or arrested, there would be some record. That was his current top priority. Sua had found the info, but wasn't sure how to share it. Sevyu casually told her to just send it to his phone for now. Suddenly, a call came in. The team leader was called away for a private talk. A report had arrived. There was a full-blown gang war between two groups, and some of them were awakened individuals. The police didn't want to interfere because one of the gangs was Service. Hearing that, the team leader got even more irritated. Sevyu didn't even know what Service was. Swa explained Service wasn't some low-level gang. They were arms traffickers and contract killers, with rumors of involvement in hunter trafficking. Basically, way too dangerous for regular cops to handle. This piqued Sevyu's interest, especially the hunter trafficking part. If it was true, maybe it was connected to the death of one of his disciples, whose body was never found. So, Sevyu told Bongnu to take him along. Bongnu, now annoyed at being called by his old name, reminded him his name was Jangwoo. Now, cut to the battlefield. The Service gang had just crushed the Blood Reaper gang. Their second-in-command, Kango, was feeling smug. His third-in-command was cracking dark jokes about how easily they'd wiped out their enemies. While they were celebrating their win, a massive explosion shook the area. Someone broke through the building wall, and who else would it be but Sevyu? He casually entered the scene and locked eyes on Kango. Judging from Kango's non-stop cocky talk, Sevyu figured this guy had probably killed other hunters before, and that made him even more excited. He wanted to see what Kango could really do. By the way, it was clear the website panel skipped a few pages, because the next thing shown was Sevyu absolutely wiping the floor with them. Despite being alone, he had the entire gang running scared. No matter how many attempts they made, they couldn't land a hit on him. They were already planning to escape. Kango finally went full power, activating his B-rank skillful body armor, which boosted his physical and magical resistance. His minions joined him, but it didn't take Sevyu long to wipe them out and steal their skills too. It looked like Sevyu had only come here to test his strength to see how strong today's awakened criminals had become, but after realizing these guys were a hopeless bunch, he decided to end the fight quickly. Just then, the team leader arrived and reported that he'd cleared the upper floor of the club. But seeing the carnage on the ground floor left him completely stunned. Sevyu casually said he had left one guy alive, someone useful enough for interrogation. The team leader got a bit tense, muttering about legal protocols. He said they were supposed to capture them alive, but since these guys had attacked first, he would just log it as self-defense, the real reason for his stress. These criminals were so dangerous that execution warrants had already been issued against them. And yet Sevyu had soloed them all. There was no doubt left. Sevyu's mad dog reputation was absolutely legit. Sevyu was living under a misconception. He wanted to remind everyone that if a crime is committed, regardless of the culprit, they need to be held accountable. They didn't realize how much damage they'd caused to society. Gerd didn't like what Sevyu was saying because, according to him, it implied that Sevyu was free to kill anyone who committed a crime. Gerd strongly defended his brother, who only became a criminal because he had to take care of his little brother. Jineni had chosen that path to protect Gerd. Now Gerd wanted to punish this investigator who could kill someone without even trying to understand them. He activated his strongest technique, Volfang. Sevyu could tell in a glance that this attack was powerful enough to kill him. To avoid it, he asked Frey for permission to use another skill. Frey was already exhausted after supplying Sevyu with resources all day, but Sevyu promised he'd handle the fight himself after using this one skill. He cast Neutralization, a hidden class spell that identifies the opponent's spell level and cancels it out. Gerd couldn't believe it. How could a so-called ordinary healer do this? He had nullified an rank hunter's strongest skill. Everyone was in disbelief. One guy was overpowering the entire group. Sevyu switched to offensive mode and mocked Gerd's emotional reasoning, saying the world was full of people like Jineni who struggled but didn't turn to crime. Then, he threw a powerful attack that hit Gerd so hard he was sent flying backward. Gerd tried to block it, but even that left a deep wound on his arm. Gerd told his men not to interfere. He analyzed the situation and figured Sevyu couldn't cast Neutralization over and over. Mana had limits. His plan now was to trap Sevyu in an endurance battle. He poured all his energy into one final strike, another use of his skill. But Sevyu didn't even cast a spell. He casually dodged the attack and immediately countered with a knee strike to Gerd's face, followed by a massive punch. Sevyu laughed and told Gerd that he'd gone beyond his body's limits using that skill. Finally, Gerd managed to push Sevyu back and ordered two of his men to restrain him. While Sevyu was defenseless in midair, Ru started getting annoyed with his boss's flip-flop behavior. First, he says no interference. Now he's calling for help. Anyway, Sevyu was now chained up, and Gerd approached for a finishing blow. This time, he wanted to make sure there was no chance for escape, but Sevyu stayed super chill. Even as the situation turned against him, he sarcastically congratulated Gerd and his gang for committing a crime like it was all just a joke. Right before Gerd could strike, Sevyu cast Life Steal, a terrifying spell that absorbs the target's life essence. As a result, Gerd's body began to wither away. Even Ru was horrified, watching his leader literally turn into a shriveled corpse. Fun fact, this was actually Sevyu's first awakened skill. And it was the real deal. He declared to everyone that he had never been a normal healer. This spell manipulates life force, giving the caster control over the target's life spirit. Now that Gerd was down, Sevyu's next target was Ru, who was flopping around like a fish. But Sevyu didn't pay attention to his whimpering or bleeding. He just landed a solid karate chop on him. Then he noticed the body cams all investigators carry. He wanted to confirm that the recording was intact, just in case he needed proof that he fought in self-defense. Turns out, Bambu and the rest had already seen the whole thing live. The priceless part? The idiot had pressed the live button instead of record. So around 6,000 people had watched Sevyu's entire fight in real time. Now the organization's reputation was on the line. Apparently, this broadcast feature was introduced 2 years ago for talent recruitment, but it turned into a failed project. Even from just that footage, people knew that someone insanely powerful had joined the organization, but the big question was why? The real problem was that this same guy had brutally killed a guild master. Even though Sevyu didn't break any official laws, it was still a serious matter that had to be discussed. Finally, the most powerful man in Korea, Choi Dae, entered the picture. A few days later, in Empire Guild's cafeteria, Sevyu was enjoying his meal with zero tension, like that viral video meant nothing. Even Frey was irritated that he was being disturbed while eating. Sevyu had become a big fan of food and hoped he'd get to enjoy even more. The food was just that good. Meanwhile, Gerd's humiliating defeat had gone wildly viral on the internet. Since it was bodycam footage, Sevyu's face was barely visible. The real issue now was if Choi Dae, the president of the organization, found out, Sevyu might have to face serious consequences. On top of that, the president had been trying to erase all traces of Sevyu's existence for the past 10 years, meaning Sevyu was a huge threat. The safest strategy now was to lay low, but Sevyu? Being the good older brother, he didn't care at all. He just cracked a joke and stayed in chill mode. Later, Sevyu met some people from the tower again. Shinju had recently joined the Awakening Guild as an rank hunter. Thanks to Sevyu's efforts, this made the guild master wonder if they should hold a seminar or meeting for the other hunters. Turns out Sevyu's guess was spot on. Two new hunters were introduced, Haman and Yamato, from different guilds. Even Imperial Guild sent a guy who had already heard about Sevyu from his own guild master. They were all impressed by Sevyu's achievements and praised him. Sevyu replied formally, but Haman was already suspicious. Haman knew Sevyu had defeated Gerd, his lifelong rival. He thought it was nonsense. He couldn't believe it, but he was analyzing everything. Then, the guild master got serious and warned Haman that he was being rude to an important guild member. But instead of apologizing, Haman dismissed the Empire Guild as overly strict. This escalated into a full-blown argument. The other two hunters stayed on the sidelines. Haman wasn't backing down, even though he might get reported to his seniors. He kept bragging about his achievements, but the most noticeable detail? Haman was actually Shalo's disciple. He kept ranting non-stop until Sevyu finally shut him down. Sevyu simply said, "If you're that desperate to meet me, then come find me another day," and even mocked his master, saying he hadn't trained his disciple in proper combat. That hit Haman's ego hard. In anger, Haman slammed his chair and threatened Sevyu like some kind of boogeyman. Someone really needed to tell him to stop with the high school level threats. The guild master decided to let everything slide and even assured his brother that he'd personally keep an eye on this slime, right? But Sevyu stayed completely chill and said there was no need to worry. This guy was just a student of his disciple. Even if he was arrogant, Sevyu didn't care. Ji-yeon, the branch director, discusses a matter with Soo-gil, the Fightline Guild master. Not only is he talking about collaboration, but he also wants to apologize for the incident involving an HMCS member caused by one of their hot-headed guys. But the branch director refuses to accept the apology, saying a guild leader shouldn't apologize for such small things. Soo-gil's true motive is quickly exposed. He's here to scout, not to say sorry. Jian sticks to his point. He won't let any guild recruit Sivu. Soo-gil realizes his true motive has been caught and tries to play it cool. He brings up another strange thing. Why is Sivu doing a support mission in a prison? Usually, only big guilds take those kinds of jobs, not HMCS. The branch director says he fully trusts in future progress. Soo-gil agrees, adding he'll chill out at least until Hunter Chu Heeman personally apologizes to Sivu on behalf of his girlfriend. The director is satisfied with this response. As the meeting ends, Soo-gil gets deep in thought. He doesn't want to lose a talent like Sivu that easily. So he instructs his secretary to arrange a trip for Heeman and make sure he behaves himself. When the secretary asks about the meeting location, Soo-gil casually drops the destination. Now, everyone knows HMCS has accepted the support request. Only one problem: they haven't arrived at the site yet. At the Beisha meeting, Infiltrator Val warns that there will be 8 top-ranked assassin killers present. He tells Hammond and Jong to pay close attention because the defectors are now about to reveal the remaining details. Jong gets tense and asks how such a small team can possibly infiltrate a full assassin group and what their final goal is. Shavu smirks and casually says, "Isn't it obvious? We're going to wipe out every single person in Beisha's next gathering. The scene shifts to Beisha's headquarters. Their leader is talking to the group, mocking the members who disappeared. Some members argue that they always knew Buddha and Cher Valak were cowards, but they hadn't expected betrayal. A goth girl named Juk shouts angrily, saying she personally killed Al-Kahi had promised her a date and now turned traitor. Another assassin cuts her off with a cold tone, saying punishing traitors is the boss's job. The boss just laughs, clearly enjoying the drama, and casually says it didn't take long for 3 members to go missing. As soon as his presence is truly felt, the whole room goes silent. He announces a death match, where the winner gets the right to execute the traitors. A heavy silence follows. Black Mamba directly tells the boss that his jokes aren't funny. He points out that killing the traitors is easy. The real problem is that their meeting spot has been leaked. Another member laughs, saying, "Who would even dare attack us?" But before he can finish his sentence, alarms start blaring. The group is shocked, but the leader just enjoys the chaos. It turns out that a single intruder is pushing in from all 5 entrances. 5 members go out to stop them. Someone casually mocks Hedgehog and Black Mamba for always sticking close to the boss. Black Mamba insults the intruders, calling them roadside garbage. Hedgehog just stays lost in her comics, totally unfazed. These 3 chat casually, unaware that Jong is creeping in through the vents. Every move is risky and he's frustrated, wondering why he always gets the most dangerous job. Now time rewinds by 30 minutes. The squad gathers outside the meeting point. Buddha explains that the 5 entrances aren't fixed, they keep shifting. Like a puzzle, Shivu decides everyone should take separate entrances to block any escape routes. Without hesitation, he asks Jong to grab the radio distributor and makes it clear, if anyone gets into a fight, especially with Black Mamba, stall. The fight and call for backup. Jong makes it inside, but gets stuck at a dead end. He sees a vent and without thinking, jumps right in. He quietly bypasses the organization's security layers, but ends up landing directly in the assassin's chamber. 5 members have already left, and there's no time left to call for reinforcements. Thinking fast, Jong pulls some marbles out of his pocket and casually drops one. The leader sees the marble, coughs, and smirks at Hedgehog, saying, "Looks like you lost a marble from our slot machine." Hedgehog picks it up playfully and says, "Bingo, jackpot." And she's totally right, the marble explodes like a dynamite, sending shockwaves through the room. The leader remains completely unfazed, just chuckling at Hedgehog's expression. Black Mamba instantly jumps from his seat and spots the grenade. With a perfect flick, he sends it flying back toward the vent. Jong sees there's no point in hiding anymore. He leaps out and makes a grand entrance, sweating all over and cursing himself for only managing to take out 1 guy. He's stunned by Black Mamba's raw power, no special technique, just brute force. Snake Guy facepalms, annoyed by the traitors who betrayed HMCS. When Jong confirms that Beisha had made a deal with HMCS, Snake Guy sarcastically shakes his head. All this for such a petty deal? But Jong isn't here to get stuck in thoughts. He conjures a bright flash that temporarily blinds his opponents, and while they're distracted, he throws some hidden daggers across the room. The leader remains relaxed, sipping her tea like it's just a children's fight. Black Mamba just laughs and says, "I already know your little tricks, Jong." Jong is shocked when he sees Snake Man's body regenerate trauma, sealing his wounds like nothing ever happened. Snake Guy gets serious and says, "That's it, game over." Then, with lightning speed, he charges and smashes Jong into the wall with a single brutal strike. Black Mamba sighs in irritation. "Man, I thought this would be more fun, but you went straight for the vitals." Then he looks at the boss and casually asks if he can finish him off with a Messier touch. Before Jong can even report back, he gets kicked hard in the chest. Snake Guy plants a foot on his chest and mocks, "So who's the backup, HMCS traitors or Wolf Boy?" But before Jong can reply, backup bursts into the hall, 3 of them entering together. Everyone is surprised. The real fight begins. Without even looking, Black Mamba dodges all 3 attacks, leaving a huge crater where he once stood. Snake Guy watches the intruders and says, "Boss must be so disappointed, seeing his chosen one this week." But then, he notices something odd. The 3 don't look tired at all. Their movements are smooth, as if they hadn't just fought tiger or grizzly level enemies. Their weak attacks are being dodged easily, and Snake Guy starts to feel suspicious. Hammond moves in for close combat with Mamba, but before he can even land a hit, Mamba grabs him in a deadly grip and throws him away. Mamba smirks and asks, "What's a white lion hunter doing with HMCS?" As the trio struggles, Snake Guy's suspicion deepens. A team formed just yesterday. How are they hurting Bashir? His eyes narrow, trying to figure out who's really playing the game. Frustrated, Hammond yells at Jong to get up and reminds him that they jumped in right away. He explains how Shavu suddenly appeared in their fight and ordered them into the hall. With no other choice, the trio is just stalling, waiting for their real hero to arrive and clean up. Fok grits his teeth, wondering how they'll even capture a monster like Black Mamba alive. A senior guy looks at the hall's setup and says, "No matter how fast Mamba is, teleportation isn't in his bag of tricks." He gets uneasy seeing the leader silently observing the battle. The real threat is Crow. The moment she moves, anything could happen. He tells the trio to focus on capturing Mamba while he keeps an eye on the leader. Meanwhile, Snake Guy gets more annoyed dodging Hammond and Wolf Boy's attacks, especially as everyone is ignoring his questions. Then, Baldy's voice booms through the hall. "No one's leaving until our hero arrives." Red Monad chains erupt from the ground and bind Hammond and even Baisha's leader, Crow. The boss laughs, calling the old man's efforts a waste of time, but the old man stays calm and trusts his binding spell. A deadly aura starts pouring out from Crow, and he wonders how their mastermind could be so strong that people even dared to betray him. Without wasting time, he calls Hedgehog. From the darkness, she attacks the old man with her thorny hair. Fok and Jong rush to defend him, shocked that he's still alive. Mamba, bored of all this waiting, breaks free from the bindings and activates his own skill. "Looks like we'll be busy cleaning up this mess," he says. His scales start turning white as he mutates into a white-scaled lizard man and promises to end everyone's lives in a single moment. Jung and Hammond, knowing their attacks can't penetrate his thick scales, get ready to run. Jong studies Mamba's transformation. He looks like Wolf Boy, but his mana is even denser than Diamond. In this rigged hall, he's the only one who can stop this disaster. He realizes helping the old man and Bulk against Hedgehog is impossible. So he does what a weak guy would do. He throws a pebble into Mamba's hand. Before Mamba can even remove it, it starts glowing green. Corrosive skill indicator. Jong throws more daggers, but Mamba blows them away mid-air. Hammond warns that a big rock is headed his way, but Mamba calmly reminds him that losing focus in battle is dangerous. The monster teleports behind Jong, puts him in a chokehold, and says, "You innocent hunters misunderstood the situation. Lizard Man makes it clear skill ranks and mana numbers don't matter when the fight gets dirty. The mistake was challenging us in our own territory," he declares. Meanwhile, Hedgehog is busy exacting her revenge on Valak for lying. The meeting hall is filled with self-destructive buffing mechanisms made only for Baisha members. This place is called the Snake's Den. No one who enters comes out alive. Mamba tells Jong to give up and is about to knock him out completely. But suddenly, a powerful aura fills the room. They were called Neon, those who acted as a bridge between demons and humans. But the human world wasn't so simple. The first-generation hunters had confronted them. These hunters had mastered mana manipulation and stood against the rising influence of the Padam Neon. And then began the Great War, a devastating battle between humans and demons that shook the entire world. Eventually, humans won, and the demons were forced to retreat. Shavu remembers that it's been 10 years since he defeated 4 demon lords all on his own, but after that, he was thrown into a dimensional rift and got trapped in the demon world. Now he wonders, how is the name Padam Neon resurfacing after all this time? Especially since that group was dismantled before the war even started. His thoughts shift to his predator. A question lingers in his mind.